A very good evening, one and all, to all you wonderful educators out there. We are coming towards the end of, our session for the Higher Education Innovation and Technology Summit. We are. This is definitely last session, but not the least, because this is one of the biggest sessions of the day, with over four IIT directors talking to you on various aspects of skill development. That is the topic for the higher education segment for this particular panel. So I request all of you to please stay tuned and please watch the complete session, and please do share the feedback after the end of the session. It has been such a fantastic day, and to end this wonderful event, wonderful summit at this gesture, at this scale, it's a huge opportunity for all the educators out there to learn more from our esteemed speakers. So without further ado, I'll not take much of your time. I'll introduce you to the topic. It is called the role of skill development in higher education institutions, impact of added courses and certifications on employability of the students. To moderate this session, I'll once again invite Mr. Pankaj Jain, who is the Regional Director of Indian Subcontinent UPES, University of Technology, Sydney College, Australia. Professor Rajat Moona ji, who is the Director of IIT Billai. We have Professor Manoj Kumar Gaudji, who is the Director of IIT Jammu. We have Professor Neelesh Kumar Jain ji, who is the Director of IIT Indore. Mr. Prashant Srivastava, Director, South Asia, Seneca College, joining us all the way from Toronto, Canada. We'll soon be joined by Professor Dr. Sandeep Sancheti, who is the Provost and the Vice Chancellor of Marwadi University. Dr. Sunil Rai, pardon me, Vice Chancellor UPES, and Dr. Abhay Kumar, Vice Chancellor Pratap University. It's such an distinguished panel, such an esteemed panel to have for this amazing topic. I welcome you all with folded hands, and it's really humbling for Universal Mental Association to have personalities of your stature on our platform. Thank you so much. I request Pankaj sir to please take away the session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandeep ji, and thanks to all the panelists for joining. As Sandeep said, it's a full panel with 7 speakers, so we'll have to keep it time limit and control ourselves in speaking. So I'd like to, without wasting time, I'd like to have the opening remark by Professor Rajat Moona, who is the Director of IIT Billai. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pankaj Jain, and it's a very proud privilege for me to be with such a distinguished panel where several vice chancellors and directors of esteemed institutes are actually participating. I think this year of pandemic situation has actually accelerated many technology innovations. One of them is the online education. But at the same time, it actually also has caused a situation where students are not in the campuses, they are not in the classrooms, and there is a great amount of learning that otherwise could have happened is not possible to be carried out. And often it is said typically that about 30 to 40% education is through classroom, and remaining 60 to 70% education is through various other means. For example, organizing various technical festivals in technological institutes, in cultural institutes, organizing cultural festivals and arts festivals and these kind of things. So it actually brings a notion of participation and competitiveness, because of which people learn. Now, this particular thing has actually not taken place in last 1.5 year of COVID situation. In addition to this, our labs where students could be actually doing variety of different hands-on experiences has not taken place. So obviously the impact of it comes in terms of skills. And how do we actually take forward this skill development? That's a big challenge. There are a number of ways that it can be done. Over time, we have actually tested several technologies of online education, whether it is through platforms like MOOC platform, massively online open courseware, whether it is through MOOC platforms or whether it is through classroom sessions conveyed through video conferencing. That technology, in my opinion, has matured now to a level that people can actually get benefit out of it. On the other hand, skill development technology through virtual mode is still going to remain a problem. Maybe this is something that one has to look at. How do we actually handle? Recently, we added a new curriculum called BTech in Data Science and Artificial Intelligence, and our first set of students actually arrived this time. Unfortunately, they all had to go through online education, and they were all at home. But hopefully, things will ease out now, and things will become a little better. But then, without skills, there is always going to be a question on employability. I mean, we may actually have people who are well versed with the technologies, well versed with the concepts, but can they actually carry out things hands on? And that's, I think, a big focus that we need to actually take into our policy and decision making going forward. So, with this, I would actually stop at this, and maybe in the next round, I can actually carry out more, talk about more. Thank you. Over to you, Pankaj.
Thank you, Professor Rajat Moona. Thanks for adhering to the time. Very nice of you. Good points, and we will build it up with the session. Now I will ask Professor Neelesh Kumar Jain sir, from who's the Director of IT Indore, to please speak something. What you think? What are the things we are looking at?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this panel, and distinguished colleagues, which includes a lot of, I think 4 directors of IITs. So I would just continue from what Professor Moona has said, that I think learning we have now adopted, but challenges are there in the evaluation. How do we evaluate the student? So entire system of our, like exam-based, 2 exam-based, 3 exam-based, mid-semester, end semester, some test, the entire thing looks, it requires rethinking in that sense. And as far as the skill developments are concerned, like, we, instead of student forcing or, using the means to collaborate among themselves, we force them to collaborate, by giving a lot of projects. So the distribution of marks, where we talk of mid-semester, end semester, has to change, and more emphasis on the project and the things which could be done in collaboration at home. And obviously, this doing the practicals at going from home or seeing the recorded video is a challenge. But we need to work very, very fast to come up with the virtual labs. For example, I can give how can we simulate using advanced graphics a lathe machine. If a student does some mistake, that lathe should not function, the graphics should stop it, and the different messages can be given. So high-end simulation of such things can be done, which would obviously improve the skills. As far as the, I have a different take on the employment. So employment follows the empowerment through knowledge. So if the students are empowered, obviously the employment will follow. But the question is, how do we empower them? So one is that the curriculum needs to be revised in that sense. It has to be more learning centric rather than exam centric. The student have to evolve with the time, and the teachers also have to think beyond what we have been doing in a conventional way. Our lab staff needs to be changed in that way. How they can help the students, how they can do the practical online and in a simulated manner, so that the students can have a learning experience, because we do not know when this situation is going to end. So we need to develop the, we need to evolve in this technology, using the technology, and come up how the skill and the learning can be enhanced. So that's from my side.
Thank you, Professor Neelesh, sir. And I'm very happy to see the Indian flag on your door, because in the previous session we had a talk about international strategies and other things. So one of the speakers said that I think Professor Marwadi was from AIMT University. It does that nationalism has to be a part of our education, which is missing. So happy to see the national flag on your backdrop also. So now I'll bring in Prashant Srivastava ji, who is the Director South Asia from Seneca College, Toronto. He's all the way at 7:30 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday morning sitting with us. So over to you, Prashant.
Thank you, Pankajji, and it is my pleasure to be in with our esteemed and distinguished panelists from premium Indian institutions. So, firstly, here at the outset, I would just like to give a short overview of Canadian education system because I would like to bring a Canadian perspective in this discussion on skill development. So, firstly, Canada is a federation of 10 provinces and 3 territories. Under Canadian Constitution, provincial government has exclusive responsibility for all levels of education, and there is no central Ministry of Education at the federal level. For example, in the province of Ontario, where we are based, there are 24 publicly funded colleges. They were established by the Government of Ontario in 1967. The Ministry of Colleges and Universities is responsible to oversee the public college system in Ontario. And it was created at the time just post World War II when manufacturing economy was on the peak, and the colleges came as viable, accessible form of higher education for the local communities because they started offering at lower tuition cost, and then people they don't have to relocate as well. So this system has evolved over the time, and as we speak, over 200 million graduates are working in Ontario workforce, and they are all graduates from colleges. And what colleges do, colleges offer very hands-on practical education, which is diploma programs, advanced diploma programs, graduate certificate. I think this discussion is about graduate certificate programs. And these graduate certificate programs are high in demand, and actually, you will be very surprised to know that we have a large inflow of Indian students now coming to Canada, and majority of them are studying in colleges as compared to universities. And there are over 220,000 Indian students. The growth is phenomenal. And what happens to these students? They come, they study, they work, and they are contributing to the skill development of the Canadian society immensely. And in this time of pandemic, that is why the government of Canada has recognized the contribution and eased restrictions for students who have adapted to online learning for Canadian colleges and universities from their home countries, that their time of education will be accounted towards postgraduate work permit because there is a need of these skill-based uh, trained professionals to work in the workforce. So this is how the system has evolved here, and you will be also very surprised to know that number of university graduates enrolled in colleges has increased by over 40% in last 5 years. So this is a trend we are seeing, that even students when they have university degrees, they are looking for employable skills, and for that they are coming to colleges, and we have become more like an employment training center in the province of Ontario, where students, not only international domestic students, when they complete university degrees, they are coming to colleges to be trained and then employed in the workforce. I will deliberate more and during the discussion. And one last thing I would like to mention here is about peoples without job and jobs without people. This is the whole phenomena we are seeing in the world, and this is what the colleges have been responding to. That they are creating the workforce so that they're skilled and they're trained for the jobs of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashantji. Good insights about the Canadian system and graduate diplomas because, as you see, the whole panel is about IITs and private university. So, for them to understand what is a college, what is like a college is something like ITIs of India, what we have like Aryabhatta Polytechnic and all those polytechnics in India. So, we have three IITs directors, so they are like top end research institutes. So for them to get a feel of what a graduate diploma, graduate certificate is. But these are very, very popular, as Prashant himself said. Last year we had 1,30,000 students going out of India, which is a huge number. Like just after US, I think the numbers of Canada have touched, grown by 30-40%, what he touched also. So this is a big chunk of Indians going, and the prices, the fees is very low, and they have options to stay back. They have work permits and all those things which Prashant will cover more. Now I'll hand it over to, I think Professor Sancheti has not joined. So I'll give it to Dr. Sunil Rai. who is the Vice Chancellor of UPES University at Dehradun. Sir, over to you, sir.
Jain Sahab, I have joined, but I'll take my turn a little later. Let Professor Rai continue. I have joined you, Professor Jain Sahab. Sandeep Sancheti here.
Sorry, sir. Sorry,
But
sir.
I'll take my turn a little later, please.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir.
Sorry for joining a little late.
Yeah. Good
no
to
problem,
see you, Dr. Sancheti, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Universal Mentor Association, Sandeep Gulati ji, for giving us this opportunity to share our thoughts with you, and Pankaj Jain ji for moderating this session and bringing us all together. I pay my respect to all my fellow colleague panelists. We are here to, of course, share our views on a very important topic about skills in the higher education. I will be, to me, at our university, we consider these skills in three broad categories. The first one is, of course, the reason why which we are all there, which is the scholastic skills, which are provided through other academic programs, the majors and the minors and things like that. The bulk of those which are done, which cover the academic portion of it, which of course are there in the curriculum, and we do them. The second part, which is very, very important and has become even more important after this situation that the whole world has gone through and is going through, is about skills for life. We call it that. What has become important is about understanding life, about managing life, about trying to work around your business in the life that comes to you and keeps changing every now and then. The first wave is gone, the second wave is here, the third wave is knocking. We open the institutions and then we again close the institutions, and we again. So I'm opening the institutions next week and then preparing that when will I close them again and things like that. So it's about the life. And the third skills are the professional skills, which is to do about the hands-on aspects of what you're going to do in your jobs that you are going to eventually take up. Towards the first one, it's quite the systems have quite matured well. As I said, there are credit systems and major, minor arrangements, etc. And the bulk of the student credits are earned through those. They are well taken care of. The second portion is the one which we feel is extremely, extremely important, is about the skills for life. And it pleases me to share with this panel and through this panel to all the people who are participating that UPES, we have created something called School for Life. And in the School for Life, we are actually investing, again underlined, investing 48 credits out of 164 credits that a student is to earn to complete a BTech degree, which means that a sizable percentage of the credits are coming through this School for Life. And what does School for Life do is, of course, first is about 18 credits of 12 to 15 credits of life skill courses, which is communications, managing yourselves, managing time, managing anxiety, understanding the world and things like that. Then there are finding your purpose in life and so on and so forth. Then we have another basket of signature courses. And these signature courses are basically those courses which today you cannot live without. For example, there are courses on creativity, courses on analytics, automation, other AI/ML. Now, this is whether you are a lawyer or you're a doctor or any other profession that you choose to join, you will have to have these kind of skills, very strong skills with IT and analytics, artificial intelligence, automation, and so on and so forth. And the third set of skills is that it's becoming so integrative. Hotels are now getting converted into hospitals makeshift. Railway coaches are getting converted into quarantine centers. So the way the world is going through, you never know. Therefore, you need to have a larger view, and which is why these exploratory courses, students from one stream, from let us say engineering, can pick up courses from law, can pick up courses from design, and there are about 18 credits of exploratory courses that we offer. So we believe that with this arrangement, and so far the students are liking it. We have talked to our industry partners, they are liking it. So that is the second part of it. And third one, of course, the professional skills. We do it through regular programs, which we have got for giving tests to students in about aptitude, in trying to understand specific skills which their job may require in terms of programming, IT skills, communication skills, and so on and so forth. So basically three categories: scholarly skills, skills for life, and the professional skills is what we at UPES are doing. I will stop here and talk about more of these details when my turn comes again. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil Rai. Good points, and very happy to hear somebody talking about hotels being converted to hospitals and railway coaches to hospitals. A very good point and a valid point. So, like, innovation is happening everywhere. So, very good point. Now, I'd like to hand it over to Professor Abhay Kumar, sir, who is the Vice Chancellor of Pratap University at Jaipur in Rajasthan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. My sincere thanks to Universal Mentors Association, Mr. Sandeep Gulati, and of course, my friend Pankaj ji, who has always been deliberating on such good topics in so many webinars and seminars. So it's heartening to see that such distinguished directors of IITs, IIMs, and distinguished vice chancellors are on the panel today. When we talk about the role of skill development in higher education institutions and talk about impact of added courses and certifications on the employability of students, I must say that we have to redefine what skills do we mean we should give to the students. Just as I think Dr. Sunil Rai just talked about, giving them say deliberations of finance, accounting, being a background of management. And I think having done my MBA way back in 78-80, I think I would be the senior most, one of the senior most in the few of the panels where I've been. So I must say that skilling is very different from what it was, say, about 10 years back or even a year back, when technology has disrupted education and academics completely. And we have seen that even the best of the professors were not feeling good enough to live up to imparting lesson plans online. The senior most were sometimes very, very scary in doing so, and I'm very candid about it. The young generation who were technically very savvy, they in fact teamed up with the senior professors, and so we started having LMS, ERPs and all other platforms which came into fore now. So many edtech companies have risen to the occasion and helped the educational institutions now. But when we talk about technical skills, for example, the first part of what I would say is these technical skills have to be given certain add-ons and certificate courses also. But the main problem right now, which I very practically feel, is the choice of these certificate courses for the students. The student has not to think about employability as getting a job immediately after passing out. He or she has to think of the career in front of him or her. And very frankly, what I feel now, as I have said on one other earlier occasion, is that having one skill set and climbing the corporate ladder is a thing of the past. It is a corporate maze for most of the students who go into a job. They have to maneuver through that maze. They have to have different skill sets. I would like to tell Mr. Prashant that even my daughter, who is in Canada right now, in Calgary, well settled there and doing in a job, she tells me that in that job also, she has to do a continuous certification courses to upskill and upgrade herself in that country. She's being motivated there. So what happens? Why not in India? When we feel that we as mentors, or we of what we were as a Guru Shishya's parampara in the ancient India, if we consider ourselves not only to be facilitators but tend to go a bit further as mentors, I think this skilling, the technical part, is of course very important, and we do have people who are very good in it. Of course, the IITs and the IIMs taking the lead everywhere in these terms, and I'm very thankful to them for that. Even very good universities, private universities have come up. So the 21st century skills which you talk about, and which I think Dr. Sunil Rai has said, I completely agree with you, sir. These 21st century skills, whether it is of learning, whether it is of, say, technology, and more importantly, life skills. When we tend to make our students good citizens, ethical citizens, that is what India needs. We talk about corruption, we talk about so many things. We have people who have, say, knowledge about the subject. But do we have those people in the level of teachers who are able to properly impart that knowledge to the students? There's a big question mark on that. That means the recruitment policy also has to be different. So these skilling part has to be of an order in which we try to revamp the entire system, keeping in mind that more than about 62% of the population of the country is in the working age group of 15 to 59, and almost half the country is of an average age of say 27 years. So we have to think in terms of leveraging the demographic dividend as well. So thank you, Pankaj. I think I wouldn't go beyond this right now. So pass it on to some other distinguished professor.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opening remarks, sir. I would give it to Professor Manoj Kaur, sir, from who is from IIT Jammu, sir. Sir, can you talk about some points?
Yeah. Good afternoon. Namaskar to all distinguished colleagues. I think many of my friends. So thanks for inviting me to this panel, role of skill development in higher education institution, particularly impact of added courses, certificates on employability of the students. So it has been a change which we have witnessing actually for last 18 months. I think other speakers already talked about it. Till now, we saw that education, and particularly higher education, reasonably straitjacketed. Means we follow a regulation, set of regulations, we created a structure around it, and then we followed the credit system which need to be followed. Now this disruption has actually created a lot of vibrations which are good. It has changed us possibly permanently. We had solutions, we never explored them, we never expected them, and we had resistance to change as well, because the technology what we started using in the last 18 months did exist before us, but typically for many of us status quo was an easy option, and we continued with that. We also saw that employability is connected with skills in hand in higher education. Other than few institutions in India, employability remains an issue still. Large number of graduates, large percentage of graduating engineers and other degree holders remains unemployable. Hence, their skill becomes very important. Technology translation, which is need of the hour, which we also saw in last 18 months, was not very handy for most of us, because we were driven by research for publication or academic research rather than research for impact. So what has changed? It's old saying, problem does not come with discipline. And problem solution needs special skill sets depending upon the domain. We are started having our own new perspective about those skills as of now, and we are learning pretty fast. In the meantime, the corporates and other employers who used to absorb our talent also saw it coming, and they also changed themselves. Work from home became a norm, and many of the physical offices have gone away. So rather than depending upon our own courses, they also start offering some tailored courses for their own requirement. And probably after some time, many major corporations will be competing with many of our courses and programs, including our flagship programs. Education in this mode, what we are doing right now is online, hybrid, or whatever we call it. It's become very equitable, democratic. It does not look at the geographical boundaries. We can allow, possibly we can take up any course from anywhere in the world. It is user-based certification which can happen, and user can pace its own sense of learning depending upon the course offering. We have changed, and by doing a bit in our curriculum as well in IIT Jammu, for especially the new formats for individual data analytics driven learning, because a lot of data is also generated around the learning behavior of individuals. It takes more time, what we realize, efforts for offering hands-on experience, and typically what is missing, largely what Rajat also mentioned, is social part of assimilation of knowledge. When they live together in residential campuses, their learning behavior is quite different and much better. Many of us also exploring what we call as industry-driven cluster of labs. Such lab setups are driven more towards skilling. Many such setups already come up, like with Siemens and Tata's, which are actually supporting in collaborative way with many of such institutions. Not only initial discovery of the skills, but reskilling has also become very important. And that should be attained by only if we have pretty skill-oriented specialized courses, which can be what we call as user-oriented programs. Many of the IITs actually started offering these large format, large-scale courses as well. But at the end, we need to create engineering solutions with the continuing solution around us, which will require skills other than in addition to the fundamentals also. Because reskilling around the pandemic, around the changing environment for our students has become very, very important. So that's all from my side at this point of time. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to give it to Professor Sancheti, who has joined us. He is the Vice Chancellor, Provost of Marwadi University in Gujarat. Earlier surveys are associated with SRM University for a long time, I think. And over to you, sir, Professor Sancheti, sir.
Thank you, Pankaj-ji, and sorry for joining you a little late. My earlier program got finished a little late, so that's the reason. Very good to see lots of friends, former colleagues, and all very distinguished leaders, academic leaders. Pardon me if I'm repeating something or I'm contradicting something in terms of my opinion, but I would say, as has been said, skills is a very, very complex term. I think Professor Rai was explaining when I joined you, and then, of course, Professor Abhay Kumar and Professor Gaur also talked about that. But to me, as a layman, if I say, skill is more something on hands-on. What will fetch you job is what generally is perceived as the skill in Indian context. I understand communication skills, life skills, academic, all those things are fine. But generally it is like that. And that is the reason why skill has always been treated differently in our setup for long, long time. Skill is slowly was getting eroded in terms of, let's say, if I say engineering education, the workshops started happening through simulation. Workshops disappeared from many, many disciplines, which as an electronics engineer, I must say that I thoroughly enjoyed every part of the workshop which was there. So those are the skills which we learned to fabricate, do something. Skill is the reason why possibly you can say that bodies like NSDCs have come. And skill is the reason why there are job-oriented degrees called BWalk. If they were not different, they would not have been framed differently. Why BWalk requires a certain very, very structured or different approach and hands-on and industry-based approach, and why not engineering in that case if the two were to be amalgamated? So my question to panel or to myself is that skill can be, I give you an example. Can I call heavy-duty truck driving to be a skill? Now, this was an answer which was given by a girl 30 years back in UK when she was asked that what she would like to be in her life. She was a 12th grader or A-level or whatever, and she happily gave that she wants to do heavy-duty truck driving. I think that was a focus on job, that was a focus on a skill, that was something focused on what she liked. So let's see that we have to relate it to life, job primarily, rest of the things will happen. Another dichotomy which is there is we visit many institutions, all of you do it. Wherever we go, there is a complaint from employers, placement agencies or whatever, your students are not good in communication skills. It's invariably there, whether I'm talking of, I don't know about IITs, but certainly I can say about NITs and Manipals and SRMs and various other things which I have been a part of. And what is the answer? That what do you do when such a shortage or such a difficulty is there? They say, sir, we have introduced one course in second year and one in third year and something like that. I simply laugh at it because to me, it is akin to what we call a capsule approach. I have shortage of iron, vitamin or protein or whatever it may be. Someone has given me a capsule and they think I have recovered. No, that cannot be a recovery. That can be just doing something locally for a certain limited time, but that's not an absolute, you can say, solution to the weakness which I had. I give you an example of let me ask you, those who are from the engineering side, if I am going to do an engineering course of 4 years, how many formal write-ups I will make in my engineering course to do improve my communication skills? There are hardly any. Most of the laboratory work is pre-printed. Students just fill their entries these days, and those entries are also whatever it may be. There's a lot less learning. They hardly write anything except for examinations. In examinations, you cannot practice what you want to learn regularly. I think laboratory is a place where they can learn. Every year you have 3 laboratories. Every semester you have 3 laboratories or 2 laboratories. Every time you have 10, 15 experiments. In all those experiments, if they are made to write 1 page each in terms of reasoning, what was right and wrong with the experiment, if we go to extremes, what will happen, what was learned, what was not learned, what was demonstrated in their own language, and if it is checked, I think they will be, by the end of the degree, they will be doing something like 30 labs, and they will be writing something like 300 to 400 such write-ups, and they will improve. We don't do it, unfortunately. So our mechanisms to improve communication skill or job skills are just not in place in terms of what we intend to do. One more thing I'd like to say, if I go to engineering alone, once again, for example, in electronics engineering, and some of you belong to that domain, we hardly had delivered the design skills, and now we have to forcibly do that capsule of design also. Now there is a design center, or now there is a design space which is there, like entrepreneurship or innovation lab. We have done one design lab also, and then we are trying to force it. I think this should be integrated with everything which we do. Talking about skills, once again, I will like to say that skills should be respected by all of us. The most unfortunate part with skills is that the skills are not respected in the society. I go with a BVOC degree, someone will laugh at it. Someone will tell me that what is this degree about? Someone will tell me that is it going to fetch you a job, and so on and so forth. So the respect for that degree or respect for what you call a skilled person are hardly a few. I think when we have a person who's very skillful, who will repair my car on the road when it breaks down, we feel very happy that he is repaired. But when we start to pay him, or when we try to pay him, we try to bargain for those things. We have hardly any respect for such jobs which people are doing in country, or otherwise they are skillful. So we need to do a lot of changes as far as the skill is concerned. And a final word before something more comes again in terms of discussion. You have said added courses as skills. In your title of your discussion is added courses. That means it can be only icing on the cake. It is not the cake itself. Now, I would try to differ in this partly because today, skill by itself should be recognized without any degree or without anything at the base. If I have one wonderful skill, I should be there. Non-formal education talks about that. 20 years back, AICT was embarking on that. Nothing much happened. But the point here is, today, Intels and Googles and Facebooks or others, maybe in India also, some of them don't necessarily look for people who have graduated and have that base called degree. They just look for the skills. And by the way, in NEP 2020, there is a scheme called ABC, Academic Bank of Credit. That bank of credit, the credit itself would be sufficient. Credit will be your currency. Credit will be your money. Credit can be earned by skills directly. Credit need not be converted into any degree, diploma, certificate, or postgraduate thing, etc. And therefore, skill should be treated differently, should be reflected differently, and should be a part of the mainstream, which I think partly ABC is going to do it. So that's my initial take, Pankajji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Sancheti. Good points. The skill bank was also touched in one of the earlier sessions in the new NEP. I think there's Samanji or Naveen Mittalji touched. So very good point. Now I would like, we have around 25-30 minutes to go unless we all want to extend the session. So what I'll do is, like, I'll quickly ask, maybe giving 3 minutes to each of the speakers, or 4 minutes maximum. And we can start with Professor Rajat Moona. Sir, if we limit the time, we'll finish by 6:10. We have around 5:45. If we extend, we can go extension. We don't have mind. This is the last session to go. But if we limit, it will be good for all of us. We are 8 speakers. This is the biggest panel we had today. So, Professor Rajat Moona, sir, so if you'd like to talk, what are the quick 5 initiatives?
Thank you, Pankajji. And in fact, very interesting discussions that has actually happened in the first round. and I will pick up on some of those things. So I think two people actually talked about, Prashant and you, talked about the skill development as a formal mechanism as it is there in many countries. Perhaps in India, this is not there. And or it is not as well developed as one would like it to be. ITIs are there for skill, but the way the ITI infrastructure is, the students don't want to go to ITIs and they don't end up getting into ITIs, and in absence of students, the system itself actually collapses, and it is actually considered that ITI is only to produce electricians and plumbers. So obviously there is a skill involved there. But then when we are looking at the skill, there are various aspects of a skill. One has to look at the skill of, for example, running a startup. In fact, Professor Manoj Gaur kind of talked about this little bit. There is a skill of drivery. I think we have heard that also. I mean, the driver versus a skilled driver, there's a difference. And there are various kinds of skill. In fact, in our own academic domain, a skill of teaching itself is a skill, right? So there are a number of skills that one can be talking about. Dr. Sancheti talked about, and he actually gave a very good example. Can skill be taught? And I remember when I joined in my early days, one of the professors actually, while we were discussing this, and that time, skill is something which has been for time eternal, it has been an issue to be discussed among academics. So there was a question that was actually talked about, and we were talking about at that time of communication skill. And he asked me this question: do you think a skill can be taught? Okay, and it's a very simple question, but you really need to look at deep understanding of this. The answer is no, skill cannot be taught through classroom. So you don't create classrooms for skill impartment, you create opportunities for skill. And that is where the skill development can happen. And many times you have seen a person who has not done any schooling or anything can drive a car much better than a person who actually has learned driving. And these kind of things are there. Many times we see college dropouts have actually created industrial empires and very successful industrial systems world over, which is definitely nothing to do with the education, but with the skill of running a startup and taking it to a maturity level. Professor Neelesh talked about virtual labs as a mechanism to impart skills. Yes, a very good idea. But I will actually talk of one more thing, and that is probably a structural change one would need in order to implement. So one is that whether pandemic or not, I think this particular 1.5 year of our experience has taught us many things. One of this is that education can be given without distance being the barrier. Now, if that is the case, then students can actually be in their own places, can actually be learning through MOOC platforms, can learning through online education, can learning it through various ways, and can possibly even learn it through YouTubes and Swayam videos and these kind of pre-recorded videos. But the skill part still remains. Can we actually, instead of bringing students to the labs, which are maybe 1,000 kilometers away or 500 kilometers away, can we take the labs to the student, closest to the student? And virtual lab is one example. But virtual lab with the augmentation of physical lab probably is the perhaps better way. So can we actually create skill labs or skill institutions, let's say one in each district or one in every 5 districts or something like. These are fully equipped institutions whose only job is to run labs, augment the education by imparting labs. But then the point is, who will run these? And that's where we don't want to create a system which will be a repetition of ITIs. Okay, there has been a talk several times where people said, can we actually improve the standards of ITIs? And one of the things that people talked about at that time was, can we associate some ITIs, nearby ITIs, to our institutes of great learning like IITs, NITs, ICERs, and such kind of places? Administratively, they remain under the control of respective institution, but they are given mechanisms and methods to run skill orientation. And if that is the case, like for example, let's say if an institute is connected to IIT Bhilai, maybe some of our students would actually go there and do the skill oriented opportunity, they gain the opportunities there and do some kind of a skill orientation there. Probably it will actually improve the standards of work, right? I mean, because even ITIs will probably be much better because there is a conceptual knowledge also get infused into ITIs, and skill also will probably develop much better. And maybe this is the mechanism, for example, like in Australia and Canada and many other places that people are talking of diplomas in engineering and such kind of thing. They're slightly better than Indian skill-oriented institutions, but there is nothing in between. We have a very fine class engineering institutes, or we have ITIs, but there is nothing in between. And every other college that has actually come up in recent times is actually ambition is to go towards this, temples of modern learning, IITs, ITIs, and all that, and emulate that kind of an education. And wherever it is not practical, drop out those things like labs, they are not practical, industrial visits are not practical, research is not practical because they don't get money. So let's drop it out. The strength of IITs and NITs is research-oriented education where skill automatically gets built into it. Because research basically will mean that they have to be in the labs, they have to do dirty their hands, they have to do certain kind of things. So maybe this is one thing that we can talk about. Professor Sunil Roy talked about mechanisms such as major minor, which was actually designed so that cross-discipline infusion of ideas and skills can take place. In fact, National Education Policy of 2020 has gone great debate into this. Most IITs actually run major and minor programs. And idea there is to actually provide people tools and empower them so that they can actually not be restricted to one particular thing, but also diversify their experience of learning in various other things. Maybe in some way or the other, it will benefit both kind of things. A person who is well-rounded is probably better than a person who is an expert and cannot see anything beyond that. So this is, in my opinion, this is important. So maybe we should be actually looking at how we empower our skill orientation institutions so that skill in the modern time, and this will actually help everybody, so that in the modern times, skill in collaboration with other institutions of great learning is imparted to students closer to their homes, and they don't need to come to the institution of higher learning just for skill oriented, just for the labs and such kind of things. And one important aspect that Professor Jain actually talked about is how do we do the evaluation? Maybe that problem also can kind of reincarnate itself in different ways of saying skill oriented evaluation. So in some sense, there are many different opportunities which are available. The current pandemic has shown us that we are not invincible. We have to look at new ways, and we have to possibly look at the ways where movement of people is restricted and yet delivery of the education is maximal. This is the only thing that has been maximally impacted during this pandemic. I mean, next to it is the hospitality sector, but education sector has been the biggest fallout of this thing. So I will stop at this and leave it to Dr. Jain. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Rajat. I'll give it to Professor Neelesh Kumar Jain, sir. Sir, we'll limit it to 3 minutes maximum because we will overrun the time otherwise, and everybody, it's a Saturday evening for everybody. Professor Neelesh.
Yeah. I would suggest that we need to reclassify the skills. What skills can be given through online education? I mean, we have to accept that online education is there to stay. It would be hybrid mode, but it would be there because if we are thinking of internationalization in terms of international faculty and international students, so distance learning and remote teaching is to be there if we don't worry about the distance, as Professor Moona has pointed out. Like skills for entrepreneurship skill, financial management skill, the skill for managing in a group, group dynamics. There are some certain skills which can be taught online, for the executives. So even people working in the financial sector or banking sector or insurance and even the health sector, the courses can be designed in such a way that they work off the office hours or over the weekends. So that is one set of skills. But other set of these skills would be the where you need to work on the labs, where you touch the tangible skills, where you touch the product and you have to conduct the experiment, the experimental research part. So the question is that if you take the MSMEs and other industries, they mostly hire the polytechnics, the diploma holders or the ITIs. Even in the IIT labs, the machine operators are the IIT graduate. We have got the Indo-German tool rooms, other things. Some good mechanisms have been created by the government and the other institution. We have got the Pithampur Auto Cluster Limited, where the different parts for automotive industries are manufactured. And most of them are MSME, casting industry is another one. But the question is that they don't get the skilled manpower. So I think the polytechnic education, ITI, government keeps on opening. If they can have one excellence of ITI in each district, so that thing would be enhanced for this one. And also that networking is very important. If mentoring can happen, let us say NIT and the good colleges can mentor the polytechnics, other things. Though there are NITTRs are there, which they do this, but ultimately it remains to the lot of academic thing. So the skill set actually is to be diversified, and we need to understand even like the learning is also a skill. How a student learns so many things, but how will you communicate? What you will communicate? Okay. Also, when they appear in the group discussion or the interview, how they communicate and how they present themselves. That is a set of skills. So we can call this soft skills, other things, which can be taught, through online. But there would be certain skills for which we require the presence in the campus, and I think we need to work on those things. Obviously, teaching is another skill, and I think adaptability is one which probably missing. The flexibility and the adaptability when you talk of skill development and skill learning. That in typical Indian mindset, all these things we are doing, but ultimately at the end of the day, the things more become academic things. My suggestion would be that if the reclassification of the skills have to be done, and also with this evolving situation during the pandemic time, as mentioned by earlier speakers also, how do we manage this? Hospital management becomes important thing, hotel management becomes important thing, and in the times to come when you are talk of IoT and 5G, other things would be there, the cyber crime and other thing. So you would require different set of skills. We are the third decade of this 21st century. So what was relevant in first decade of this century, even 21st century, is not relevant right now. So the entire rethinking is required in terms of skills. And obviously, NEP has got certain things. Interdisciplinarity research and teaching is one. But this data science, data analytics, all the things are there. But ultimately, how this can serve the purpose and to uplift the society and the nation, I think that is important. So I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Neelesh. You have kept on time. It's good for us. I'll give it to Prashant Srivastava ji from Seneca College. Over to you, Prashant ji.
Thank you, Pankaj ji. And I would say that I'm so delighted to hear from all the distinguished speakers and their passion to reform the Indian education system. So it also goes with the national education policy, which we see that it has given more emphasis on vocational education. So I think vocational education and the integration of what distinguished speakers have spoken also about the possible collaboration between ITIs and IITs. That can be a good bridging way. So, for example, like in Canada, we offer diploma programs, and these diploma programs are transferable to degrees also. So, students they do have credits which they can acquire and then pursue for the degree programs as well, subsequent degree programs, either in college or they can transfer to a partner university as well. So, and this goes very well with national education policy, in that students can have multiple entry and exit points, because yes, it is about lifelong learning. And I think also importantly, it should also have an industry academia collaboration as well. So for example, in Canada, like in colleges, when we offer programs, we have program advisory committee. Program advisory committee consists of industry stakeholders. So any program which we offer in Seneca College has inputs from the industry. So we are producing students, graduates, going through the program which has been designed by industry consultation. So students have employable skills, they are job ready. Also, we focus on applied research. We have big industry partnership. We have 1,000+ industry partners in Ontario. So our students, they are able to work on industry projects which are sponsored by the industry. And again, like it is a great example of how industry has collaborated with the academia. That industry has set up those labs. For example, Siemens has set up an automation lab in Seneca, and similarly, banks, financial institutions have collaborated in the area of fintech and different disciplines. And actually, this is what I think could be one of the pathways through which the agenda of skilling in India can be enhanced. So that like students should not feel it's a social barrier to go to ITI versus IITs, and and again, the ranking and all the education system should come to a level where it is a uniform and a seamless transition between ITIs to IITs. I think then only the agenda of the skilling would be able to we will be able to accomplish these kind of revolutionary changes are needed, and we see those in now laid down in writing in the National Education Policy 2020. Uh, However, it will be interesting to observe and see how that policy is being implemented, because on the paper it looks very actually nice that what government has laid the framework of vocational education, included coding and other things during within the school education, but implementation would be the way to go forward. And I think in that direction, they can also look into the best practices from countries like Canada or Germany, for instance, where these skill based education and the centers are doing very well and flourishing well. So, with this, I will end. I know we have lack of time as well. So, thank you so much, Pankaj and all distinguished speakers.
Thank you, Prashant ji. Thank you for being concise also. I'd like to give it to Dr. Sunil Rai, sir.
Thank you,
Sunil Rai, sir.
Pankaj. Thank you very much, Pankaj. I think I'm all right. I think it has been a wonderful discussion. Some of my takeaways. Firstly, I agree with Dr. Sancheti, sir, about that we have to respect skills. As a society itself, we do not respect skills, and it's not there in the West. In the West, if something is done from machine, it will get you $10, but something is done by hand will get you $50. So that respect, I quite agree with sir, that we as a society have to start respecting the skills part of it, and the industry has already started doing it, as we are seeing. Certifications or certificates, or the degree certificates or graduate certificates, are kind of losing relevance. Sancheti sir started by saying that the whole purpose is that you should find a job, and now it's commonplace, as we all know, that industry is picking up students from structures like hackathons, for example. Now, there was a competition, CANSAT, which we all know, which is held in US, in the Northern America. And pleases me to report that 6 of our students who participated in that CANSAT have been picked up by Airbus. So they don't want to come to the campus. They will actually go to such places where skills are being displayed. So I think the relevance of graduation certifications is getting, in any case, industry will pick up. They just go because of they show that some people would be there of a particular level in a campus, and then they pick up. So industry is anyway going skill based. They've already transformed themselves, and we have to actually start respecting skills. So that's my one take. Then the other part of it is there has to be, this pandemic has taught us there has to be change in my say that basically the change in mindset that we need. The mindset about three aspects that I will touch here. Three aspects for skilling or educating. Frankly speaking, this whole term of educating should go. It's basically purpose, medium, and engagement. What is the purpose why we are preparing this? Is it a lawyer, doctor, engineer? What? The purpose. And then, of course, the medium by way which do it, we have all talked about it. Today, it has become a reality. The world has got the taste of it. Blended will be the reason, and it also gives us an opportunity. I've already requested my deans that out of 4 years, let's keep the students only for 7 semesters, 8 semester. Let us put them back in the industry. That's how engineering used to be in India many years back. Where the last 6 months were anyway in the industry. Engineering used to be a 5-year program those days. So we have to change this whole mindset. So one is about the purpose, the medium, and then of course the engagement. These engaging students, we don't have to teach, because there was also something issue was raised about communication. Can it be taught? In my understanding, you can teach concepts. So concepts can be taught. Skills have to be learned. Skills cannot be taught. They have to be learned. And context, which is even above that, to understand the context, that has to be felt, that has to be experienced. So this is the mindset change I am suggesting, that we understand the very purpose for which it is happening, and therefore we design, that is the medium, accordingly. Why we have to waste time of students in the classroom if they can be put on the skill set, and in asynchronous mode they can already pick up, and they're all intelligent people. Definitely I feel my students are more intelligent than what I am, and therefore they can always pick it up in the asynchronous mode. And finally, about so how do we, and the engagement, the purpose in the online, it has come to the fore. How do you engage a learner? Mind you, I have used the term engage a learner. And therefore you cannot be telling him to this or to that. You have to actually create, you have to motivate, you have to become a partner of him, and you are not at a higher pedestal, is what I have learned, and it has paid us some dividend. And then about the purpose, how do you check? Now about the T1, T2, midterm, final exam, NEP fortunately is talking about continuous evaluation, and that's all there because we need to actually evaluate their skills. Then it has to be done in a continuous mode. It cannot be done by just one way of exam. One question was raised in a panel yesterday: why do you need these 12th degree, 12th examination for selecting students? And it's really true how one size can fit all. One 12th certificate, you can decide this guy will be a lawyer or engineer or doctor, what? So therefore, the whole method of evaluation has to be, this is the mindset I am saying. And I will close with the beautiful concept that has come from our colleague Rajat ji. I like that concept. ITI in IIT. Wonderful. This is beautiful, because this will of course bring away. ITI kiya hai to shadi nahi hoti hai. You have to go to IIT kiya hai to char shadi bhi ho sakti hai. So that's so if there is and of course instead of ITI, I am change the name of ITIs to, I am saying, I wanted to say Indian Skills Institute, but then it become ISI, and I don't like ISI, being an ex-Navy person. So I said, let us make it SIA, Skills Institutions of India. And I think this is the best way. Why we have to have ITI, Polytechnic, and engineering. We have skills institutions and engineering institutions. Those in the skill institutions do well, move them to engineering. And of course, those in engineering not doing well, give them a 3-year. Now NEP is allowing you to do it. Give them a diploma and tell them, please fend for yourself and do something else. So this is what about my views. I think we had an excellent discussion. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll hand it over to Professor Abhay Kumar, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Pankaj ji. I would just like to say that we are talking about the role of skill development in higher education. let's say that a skill can be developed in the higher education sector. It cannot be created because, at the school level, that inculcation should be done. And that is what NEP 2020 talks about. From class 6th onward, we talk about vocational training and say internships. So that is where the thing lies. And of course, Professor Sancheti sir has very clearly and very candidly said there is no capsule solution to anything. That means ki if we try to embed certain courses in between a BTech course or an MBA course, and we think that the student will suddenly have different skills, that is not going to happen. Even the teachers sometimes are just faltering in order to teach those embedded subjects. So what we have done at Pratap University, rather in the past 1 year I've been in this university, what I have done is I have taken the resources of our alumni in a big way. What I have done is we have just put very good senior alumni in different industry on an advisory board of our schools. The board of studies is different. We have created advisory boards in which the alumni who have passed out from pharmacy, for instance, and are in very good industries as, say, vice president or somewhere, they are on the advisory board, and sometimes we invite them to teach our students. That means mentor them, skill them as to what is happening in the industry. And the students are more attentive to them rather than to the existing faculty members. This I have found. And what is happening is that when we talk about a gap between industry and academia, suddenly something comes up that is it only the fault of the higher educational institutions? Does not the industry also owe responsibility, not simply to say that the students which higher education institutions are giving out are unskilled? When we have to be together, whether it is the government, like when you talk about the implementation of the NEP, we say it is not only the government who can do it. We have to collaborate. Sometimes we talk about teacher to teacher collaboration, researcher to researcher collaboration, institution to institution. This era is of collaboration. I have time and again said everywhere. So whether it is alumni, whether it is teachers, let's come together, everyone, share our resources. Let's not be in isolated islands of excellence. This is my only theory. So thank you so much. I won't take much time now. Thank you, Pankaj.
Thank you, Abhay sir. Thank you. Very nice point. Over to Professor Manoj Kaur sir.
Yeah. So very interesting discussion and very interesting ideas. In fact, some of them we all have started experimenting. I just start with, I'll keep it crisp actually. The World Economic Forum, they published a report actually a couple of years back. They mentioned that in the span of around 30 years of working life of a graduating student will need to learn and relearn a new set of skills to keep employed at least 4 to 5 times. And that's almost like a necessity for them to survive in the emerging economies. Reason is very simple. If you do not change, then you will become superfluous and redundant, actually. And these things we have seen in the past also, and we'll keep on witnessing later on also. So a skill is very important. Like I think all of us said that skill fetches you a job and makes and keep you employable as well. In fact, a few years back, somebody told me that, in fact, engineering students in IITs do less of hands-on than the IITs. So it's not that bad, but we have stopped creating new experiments and designing the experiments of our own and taking off-the-shelf components and working become easier. So skill universities have come to cater to that, I presume, but not sure if another set of degrees will help. So skill-based labs by the stakeholders will improve industry-academic connect, and it might improve the utilization of lab infrastructure, which we all want, will help address skill gap currently existing of having not enough skilled manpower for handling very sophisticated equipment. For example, there's this domain of tunnel engineering. In fact, a huge shortage of manpower, skilled manpower. So a specialized skill set is being deemed from the civil engineers. So we start looking over here in JK, Jammu and Kashmir UT. We started working to create a minor program in civil engineering, which can actually create our own engineers, or we can reskill the existing pool of engineers with a different organization. It is successful. And the same thing which we are doing at the postgraduate level as well. So at the end, customer and user-oriented programs are taking a good shape and creating their own structures. Those who would like to reskill themselves, then institutes like IITs, NITs, ISAs, and other institutions of higher education can actually help them reskill them, remain relevant for the skill set which is being required. Some of the experiments I think all of us doing is like design practicum courses where we try to solve the problem rather than learning only lab experiment. So creating solutions or engineering solutions are equally important, which requires for maintaining any technology of existence. And I strongly believe the acceptance of academic banks of credit of any NAP 2020, if done properly, would require a huge paradigm shift than what we are doing currently, if it is done properly. And it can be a game changer for all of us. Pandemic-driven nudge will help us probably make it happen sooner than later. So that's my take on this. Thank you, Pankaj.
Thank you. I would just like to hand it over to Professor Sandeep Sancheti, the last speaker for the day, and one of the most senior most speaker also. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you to all the speakers for once again very interesting views. Like I said in the earlier version, I would give another two examples. I gave the example of truck driving, but here I'm saying playing. Let's say, take for example, playing cricket. What kind of education and skilling relationship it has. Similarly, acting. Now, these are the two most shortest routes for success, money, fame, anything you can say, even to get Bharat Ratnas and even to get elevated to selected positions of what you call members of parliaments or whatever. So that's all skill oriented. So on one side, the skill is highly, highly respected. I may play football with both my legs. I can shoot with both left and right. I'll be called a very skillful person. But when it comes to engineering side, which we are predominantly discussing, indirectly our focus is on that from all the speakers, I find the engineering side of skilling is not so much of recognized or well accepted. I think Dr. Gaur talked about the skill university, and I'm part of one of them. It's called BSDU in Jaipur, was established some 4 or 5 years back. One of the fantastic universities I might have seen purely for skills. Whenever I have gone there, I have learned something new. I've taken videos of their facilities and I've tried to kind of dream, can I create this thing in my engineering institution? Now, this kind of a university did not necessarily fully succeed because of the reasons which I have already stated, that engineering skilling is looked down upon both in terms of respect and salary or overall recognition, whatever it is. So we need to do something. However, skills in other domains are very well respected. I've already given you the example. I will say, and that point was just briefly mentioned by Professor Gaur in the end, which I touched upon earlier also. ABC is a scheme where I have worked on behalf of UGC for long. And we have all removed all such barriers that there is no distinction of any skills or vocational courses or any mode of learning or any time of learning, any language of learning. Fortunately, people are understanding that. For example, I may be called by a top CTO who is making a new startup and he wants Sandeep Sancheti to work on something where my skills may be there. Why shouldn't I work? And when I work for 2-3 months and deliver that product, I think I should earn credits out of that, and that will be my skilling credits. So in ABC, what we have done is you can go to ITI and earn a credit. You can go to IIT and earn a credit. You can earn half credits in English, half in German, half in Hindi, or whatever it may be, whatever that combination may be, you can earn and come to an institution and say, hey, I have followed multiple entry, multiple exit. I have followed multidisciplinarity. I have also followed blended teaching learning approach, that I have learned something in industry, sitting in industry, something I have done as a virtual lab, something I have done as a face-to-face or a physical lab, something is only by designing and conceptualizing something. I've developed those skills and I'm now ready with what I wanted to be, and therefore give me a degree. This ABC is going to provide a degree to that person. So there will be no distinction of what you call any institution to any institutions in times to come. It will take time in India. It takes time to settle down, but hopefully this will happen. And that is when the engineering skills will be once again shining. I must tell you an example of electronics once again, fiber splicing. Not now, but 20 years back, I was told that one of the highest paid job, financially rewarding, I'm not necessarily saying otherwise, was nothing but splicing the fibers, because the growth was tremendous. And in one fiber cable, you'll probably do hundreds of splicing, and that was a highly technical job, much more paying than the jobs which we are doing and where we were getting paid. So skilled jobs can be highly paid also. But engineering skills, once they come to the mainstream in terms of degree earning without any tag or anything, I think they will grow substantially. People will not worry about degree, diploma, certificate. They will just take that skill and be ready for the job. I think information security related expertise, some of you can probably vouch that there are a lot of people from 9th, 10th, 12th standard who are much better than most of our teachers or students who are there in IITs or NITs or my institution. And therefore, skill would be the flavor of the times to come. The change is slow, but it would happen. That's my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sancheti, and thanks to all the panelists. I would like sincerely thanks all of you. We have gone overboard. I would just like to end with a simple quote, not from a literature point of view, but from a movie called Super 30, in which Anant Kumarji was portrayed by Hrithik Roshan. He said a word which was very popular and very nice, that apatti hi avishkar ko janam deti hai, which means calamity leads to innovation. So these are times when we need to innovate, and NEP 20 and skills is a high agenda on the government of India also. So thanks to all of you. Have a nice evening. Thank you for joining us from Umar Conferences, from Sandeep Gulati ji and me signing it off. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you.